First, I'd like to thank Liz Bailey and CDF for taking the leadership to get us all together today. I think it's important. I think in all the cooperative sectors, we're so busy fighting our own battles sometimes that we fail to get together, and we really learn a lot. And I've already learned a lot just from listening to this panel today. You know, National Cooperative Bank, NCB, finances ownership, whether it's home ownership through housing cooperatives or small business ownership through purchasing cooperatives or employee ownership or community ownership. We finance ownership. And Paul, I think, asked a very easy question, especially for me, you know, is the cooperative model a better model? And I say absolutely. And I answered that question a long time ago. Back in 1980, Bill, I was asked to run a credit union, and it was a temporary help workers. And my very first loan was to a lady that was really needed money to move into an apartment. She needed the deposit money. It was a no-brainer from my standpoint because she was a good employee and we could deduct the money right from her paycheck. But it made a tremendous impact on her life because she was either she got that loan or she was homeless. And you know, I didn't realize that at the time, but you know, in the weeks or months afterwards, I realized that what an impact that I made in that. And so the cooperative model, in my mind, is tremendously successful. But you know, I'm very frustrated as being in the cooperative sector. For example, in the healthcare debate, before they had the final vote, you know, they did a lot of these hearings and a lot of the consumer-owned models, the health partners, the group health of Puget Sound. There was a couple groups up in New York of consumer-driven organizations, and everyone was saying, yes, that's the model that we need to preventive care, and we need to, you know, treat people. I mean, get people before they get diabetes and overweight and things like that. Everything that made sense. And then when we got to legislation, we got something totally different. Just with credit unions, it's very frustrating, Bill. I know for you, from the standpoint that we have a bill for small business lending. It's a no-brainer, costs nobody any money. Credit unions are very effective at getting the money out, but the administration comes up with their own small business lending fund. We get beat back by the bankers. We're at 14 and F here at the National Press Club. If you go up to 14th and W, not too far from here, you'll see a housing cooperative. You look to the left. It's called Capital Manor. And Capital Manor was formed when Mrs. Thomas saw some suits out the back, and it was a pretty rough neighborhood at the time. And she says, I better go warn those gentlemen. They shouldn't be walking around here. And so she went out there and said, gentlemen, you better not be walking around here. And they said, oh, they started asking a lot of questions, and she found out that they were going to sell this apartment building. And she organized the tenants. They bought the building, they renovated it, and created a housing co-op. They not only created a housing co-op, but they created a community of residents. They look after each other. And it's very successful. Hardly any of those individuals by themselves could have bought or got the loan individually. You know, they had some unemployment, this and that, but collectively, they could get that loan. Vincent Gray, the current mayor of D.C., came to the ribbon-cutting ceremony and said how great housing cooperatives are and stuff like that. But this is where the frustration comes in, whether it's healthcare or whether it's credit unions or housing co-ops. We have a great story to tell, but for some reason, we just can't get it across the finish line sometime. And, you know, I think that this International Year of the Co-op is just one opportunity, but we need to get our stories out. You know, Home Health Associates, a great model, but there's only a couple. There should be a lot more of these out there. So maybe, Martin, we need another Teddy Roosevelt or something to climb that hill or something. We as a cooperative community really need to come together to figure out how we can really sort of get it across the finish line, because we have a great story to tell, And in all these, the financial impact, the financial recession impacted us all. But there's all these great stories about not taking TARP and housing co-ops up in New York City. We have securitized over $5 billion, and not one of those is in financial trouble. What the reason is there was no predatory lending. Everything was done in a good fashion. So were they impacted? Absolutely. But if it was done prudently, they survived the recession, and they still have their communities intact, and you don't have a bunch of for sale signs. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Be very helpful to share.
Growth in cooperatives. I think there's tremendous growth in small business purchasing co-ops. There is not a small business in this country that doesn't need a cooperative, whether it's a farmer or whether it's the pharmacist or whether it's whatever small business. There is a tremendous need to come together to beat back this just international impact of globalization. It's just tremendous. Recently, Lee Scott, the retired CEO of Walmart, and I am no fan of Walmart. In fact, one of our annual meetings, we had sort of a Walmart beat-up session. Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed that. That was pretty good. But Lee Scott, about 2 weeks ago, spoke in Phoenix at the American Bakers Association, and Walmart's been struggling a little bit lately, and he was emphasizing the point that Walmart really needs to engage in the community, and how that is very important. And he sort of picked up on this shared value concept that some of, I think you've read about. There was a Harvard Business Review article about the shared value, and it's a concept where the consumer really is concerning about their community. And I was sort of interested in, there used to be a bunch of World Bank meetings here, and they were protesting, and I was wondering why they were protesting. And I finally figured out why they were protesting is that today a lot of young people really miss that community. Their community is on the internet. It's in Facebook and stuff like that. But we really need to, I think the tremendous opportunity for co-ops are the ones that can identify with the youth and build that community and the interconnections in whatever way. And I think that co-ops will be successful if they do that.